My name is Lena Hart. Until 3 hours ago, I was a senior implementation lead at Nova Crest Solutions, a boutique SaaS consultancy that marketed itself on precision, empathy, and zero tolerance for mediocrity. I suppose I violated that last one by noticing too much. It was a Thursday morning, the kind with weak sunlight and office quiet too early in the week to be ominous. I had arrived before 8 a.m. as usual, reviewed the Q3 onboarding projections, finalized my deck for the 11:30 Gemflux sync, and sent out the team brief with notes from Monday's client call. Routine. Then my Slack notifications stopped updating. At 8:42, my inbox signed me out. By 8:58, HR had sent a calendar invite labeled Personnel Matter, Maddox plus Sinclair. No title, no location, just a block. The walk to the conference room was short, familiar. I'd walked it 100 times, usually on Ethan's behalf, usually after he forgot a client name or delivered the wrong onboarding file to finance. When I entered, he was already seated, back straight, folder centered, water bottle untouched. No greeting. "Lena," he said, barely glancing up. "Let's get straight to it." He gestured to the folder. Cream-colored, labeled in permanent marker. My name was written in uppercase. "We reviewed last week's deliverable to Gemflux," he said. There was a data misalignment on slide 14. The uptime projection was listed as 99.3%, but the previous report cited 99.93%. It created confusion. I didn't say anything, because I knew what he was referring to. A single typo in a performance slide, a dropped digit in a client report I had rewritten 3 times due to last-minute edits from Ethan. I'd caught the error 15 minutes before the call, corrected it verbally in the walkthrough, and sent an updated version by email before close of business that day. There had been no follow-up, no client complaint, no lost business, just an excuse. "Given our standards," Ethan continued, "and a few broader conversations around role clarity and team alignment, we've made the decision to transition your responsibilities effective immediately." He didn't say the word fired. He didn't need to. The packet included a 2-week severance offer and a reminder of the confidentiality agreement I'd signed in year 2. Standard legal padding, nothing unexpected, nothing honest either. Ethan didn't mention the times I rewrote his implementation timelines so they didn't collapse in front of clients. Didn't mention that he hadn't taken a single technical call with an enterprise lead in 9 months. Didn't mention that I'd covered for him when he used the wrong version of a renewal quote and nearly cost the firm a contract worth $240,000 in Q2. Instead, he fired me over a typo. I didn't argue, because arguments leave room for illusion. And I wasn't there to negotiate. I was there to confirm what I already knew. I had become inconvenient. I was the one who noticed too much. I stood up, took the folder without looking inside, walked past the intern desk where my own onboarding guide still sat in a shared drive, past the whiteboard with the legacy workflow I'd drawn, still being used but never credited. No one looked up, not because they didn't care, but because someone had already rewritten the narrative. Lena made a critical mistake. Lena couldn't handle pressure. Lena wasn't client-facing material. The only truth in any of it was that I wasn't client-facing. I had been client-stabilizing, which was harder and quieter. At home, I opened the thumb drive I had taken from my office drawer last week. The one I had quietly loaded with annotated meeting transcripts, implementation notes, and one folder I had labeled for myself. Failures they called normal. It contained documentation of timeline padding disguised as pipeline variability, half-written support tickets marked closed by Ethan's team to boost SLA stats, reused onboarding decks sent to clients from incompatible industries. None of it was illegal. All of it was real. I didn't want to go public. I wanted to go parallel. They fired me for a typo. What they didn't know was that I had already rewritten the system that made those typos inevitable. And this time, the name on the folder would be mine. I didn't start with ambition. I started with clarity. My first day at NovaCrest, I noticed two things. The onboarding flow was 5 clicks longer than necessary, and the team didn't have anyone willing to say it out loud. So I said it. Once. They added me to the workflow oversight thread the next morning. That became the pattern. I noticed what broke before it broke. I cleaned up systems while others chased optics. My job title was Implementation Specialist, but my real work was post-failure containment. Dashboards, deadline rescues, silent saving pivots. No one noticed, but no one challenged me either. At least not at first. By year 2, I had rewritten 5 of our core onboarding templates, trained 2 junior hires, spotted a billing error that would have overcharged a client $38,000 in Q4. I didn't get a bonus. I didn't even get a thank you. I got CC'd on a Slack thread where Ethan called it a team recovery win. He used phrases like holistic solutions and rapid response pivoting. He never once mentioned my name. I didn't mind, not then. I told myself it was early, that the work would speak eventually. I didn't know that in this office, the work only spoke if it had the right narrator. Ethan liked to be that narrator. He arrived 9 months after I did. Well-dressed, confident, the kind of leader who printed buzzwords before he understood system architecture. His title was Director of Strategy, but what he actually did was circulate. He checked in, dropped vague comments into Jira, and delivered high-level summaries at internal demos. Summaries I wrote. He called me his ops whisperer. I smiled back then. Before I realized that whisperer was another way of saying you speak, I take credit. The first time it felt personal was Gemflux. They were our hardest client, over-customized, under-documented, and locked into a 3-year contract that was about to combust. I rebuilt their onboarding from scratch. I mapped their internal tech. I spoke with their logistics director at 10:47 p.m. on a Friday to resolve a data sync issue Ethan had promised was handled. When they renewed, the internal announcement credited tight executive alignment. The deck Ethan presented to leadership was mine, copied slide for slide. He'd changed the font, nothing else. When I confronted him, he smiled. "We're all on the same team," he said. "You know, I couldn't have done it without you." But the next day, my name was missing from the QBR invite. Then came the annual strategy off-site. The email announcement listed key contributors. My name was 4th. After an internship, that's when I started saving copies of everything. Client deliverables, annotated proposals, emails with tweaks that stripped away attribution. I wasn't paranoid. I was just aware. Every time I spoke in meetings, Ethan interrupted, smiling, always, but redirecting. "Let me reframe that," he'd say. Or, "What Lena means is..." Soon people stopped asking me questions directly. They waited for Ethan to translate. That was the quiet shift. When you become visible, but not credited. Present, but not positioned. Still, I worked. Still, I built. I believed, somewhere beneath the daily erasure, that performance would protect me. It didn't. The final sign came in Q3, 6 weeks before my firing. We were onboarding a multi-region logistics firm, and Ethan presented a forecasting chart riddled with mislabeled variables. I flagged the issue privately. He brushed it off. I fixed it anyway. Then I saw the slide in a client session. Still wrong. When I brought it up, he said, "The client doesn't care about precision. They care about confidence." That was the moment I understood. To him, I was dangerous. Not because I was wrong, because I was exact. He needed someone to decorate, not someone to define. And that's why the typo, small, correctable, irrelevant, became the perfect exit wound. Because it wasn't about a zero. It was about removing someone who saw through his polish. After they let me go, no one followed up. No exit interview beyond the form. No client handoffs. No knowledge transfer. Just a deactivated login and a drive folder labeled Lena H. Final. They didn't even change the shared project tracker for a week. I watched updates come in. Slow, inconsistent, misaligned with the workflows I'd spent 2 years standardizing. Someone marked a multi-region rollout complete without syncing the fulfillment node timelines. I didn't correct it. I just archived the screenshot. I wasn't bitter, I was documenting. NovaCrest replaced me within 10 days, a junior associate from Ethan's alma mater. I recognized the name. He'd interned 2 summers ago. Quiet, polished, known more for slide aesthetics than logic. But that wasn't the problem. The problem was, he didn't understand the difference between a satisfied client and a silent one. That silence in our line of work didn't mean success. It meant pending fallout. By week 3, I noticed something else. One of our older accounts, Veriton Group, hadn't logged a help desk request in over a month. Odd, for a client with 4 active integrations and a known sync delay bug. I checked their vendor portal status, still active. Then I opened an old personal spreadsheet I'd kept, not confidential, just annotated, on cross-client friction points NovaCrest never addressed. I had built it to prep for pipeline triage. Now I was reviewing it like an investor would. The pattern was clear. Clients waited days for onboarding response time. Ticket escalations were routed through 2 layers of middle managers. Forecasting tools were oversold and undersupported. I knew these gaps because I'd plugged them. Personally, repeatedly, invisibly. Now no one was plugging anything. They weren't replacing my function. They were ignoring its existence. I could have sent a message. A polite warning. You may want to recheck the Veriton sync queue. But I didn't, because I wasn't an employee anymore, and I wasn't a whistleblower either. I was an architect, and the systems I'd held together weren't just broken, they were now available. That night, I purchased a domain. It wasn't dramatic, just a 5-letter name, clean, anonymous, untied to me. I registered it with a business Gmail and a private hosting provider. Then I created a blank project board. Header V1, Client Ops Recovery Model, Column 1. Fix what NovaCrest ignored. Column 2. Do it quietly. Column 3. No egos, just uptime. I didn't post on LinkedIn. I didn't announce my departure. I didn't pivot to entrepreneurship. I just opened a browser window and started writing out the workflows I used to carry in my head. Response latency, self-service implementation guides, automated deployment logic that didn't require 3 different departments to sign off. Within a week, I had a prototype interface. Ugly, functional, mine, and no typos. I didn't build it to prove anything. I built it because I already knew how it was supposed to work. Most software systems fail for one of 2 reasons. Either they try to serve everyone, or they try to impress investors before they serve users. NovaCrest did both. I didn't. My model was narrow, specific, built for clients like Veriton, complex infrastructures, lean teams, zero appetite for vendor friction. I designed for what they actually needed, transparent deployment timelines, self-healing integrations with rollback history, uptime diagnostics in plain English support tiers that didn't start at submit a ticket and wait. I wrote the back end myself. I didn't need pretty, I needed stable. The front end? A basic dashboard. No animations, just clarity. It didn't look like a pitch deck, it looked like reliability. I named it Pharaoh, a word with no meaning in my space. Just clean phonetics and an available .io domain. The website said one thing: operational clarity. Nothing more. No team page, no pricing tier splash. Just a demo scheduler and a private login portal. I seeded the beta quietly, sent it to 2 people I trusted, both client-side project managers who'd once pulled me aside after a Nova Crest call and said, "You're the only reason we stayed." They tested it, gave feedback. One of them asked if she could forward it. I said yes. She did. 3 days later, I got an email from a logistics firm in Boston. We were referred by Veriton. Can we talk implementation? They didn't ask who I was, just what the product could do. I booked the call under a pseudonym, gave them the walkthrough, showed them how Pharaoh handled the sync issue NovaCrest never fixed. They didn't flinch. They just asked how fast we could deploy. I didn't have a team, but I had process memory and no bureaucracy slowing it down. I told them, 10 days. We did it in 9. The next 2 clients came through referral chains. No ads, no sales deck, just a quiet migration from a system they'd been taught to tolerate. They didn't care that Pharaoh was new. They cared that it didn't waste their time. By the end of month 2, I had 4 signed contracts and 1 NDA request from a major supply chain analytics firm. I still hadn't spent $1 on marketing. I still hadn't added my name to the site. Ethan had no idea I existed. That was the point. I didn't want to compete loudly. I wanted to replace quietly. Pharaoh wasn't a rival brand. It was a solution-shaped absence, everything NovaCrest claimed to be, but never delivered. And soon, they were going to notice. Not because I'd reach out, but because I wouldn't. The first public crack came in a line buried deep inside a quarterly client statement. Vendor transition in progress. Service continuity unaffected. It was from Veriton Group. No press release. No drama. Just a line of text signaling that they were no longer with NovaCrest. It landed like a whisper. But I knew exactly what it meant. Veriton was one of Ethan's flagship clients. He'd used them in slide decks, investor updates, even in internal Slack threads to justify budget requests. Ongoing success, he used to call them. Proof of execution. Now they were gone. And no one inside NovaCrest had seen it coming. Because Pharaoh didn't ask for credit. We just solved the things that had been neglected for years. 2 weeks later, another one dropped. Lombrick's Freight, one of the first accounts I'd helped stabilize back in year 1, posted an open job listing for a senior vendor implementation analyst. I didn't apply. I didn't need to. They were replacing NovaCrest's onboarding team quietly from the inside. By the end of the quarter, I counted 3 full client migrations, all former NovaCrest accounts, all now under Pharaoh. One was still using the same internal language, SLA Tier 2, monthly batch sync, same tags, same logic flows. The only thing different was a signature on the invoice. Mine. I hadn't reached out to any of them. They came through the work, through the people I'd supported in the background for years, the ones who remembered who really fixed things when systems failed. Ethan noticed. He had to. Because by the time Quantal Edge, a high-visibility prospect NovaCrest had been chasing for over a year, posted their new vendor partnership on LinkedIn, they tagged Pharaoh. No fanfare, no founders pictured, just a client success team saying, Shout out to Faro for getting us live in under 10 days. Cleanest onboarding we've ever had. I read it 3 times. Not because I was shocked, because I was satisfied. Ethan didn't post anything that day. No client win reposts, no comments. His Slack presence went dark for 36 hours. Then a message landed in my inbox. From a burner email I recognized immediately. Subject: You built this on what we started. Message: It won't scale. I didn't reply. Instead, I forwarded it to myself. Then I opened the Faro backend dashboard. 4 new trial accounts, 7 scheduled demos, 1 from a NovaCrest subclient with no idea who I was. I added a postscript to the next rollout plan. Clean handoffs, no jargon, and make sure the date format's consistent. We don't do typos. Then I closed my laptop and poured a glass of water. Let Ethan watch it happen. That's what he always preferred, optics over action. Now he had both. He could see the clients disappearing. And he couldn't stop it. I didn't track NovaCrest out of spite. I tracked them because systems leave patterns. And Ethan's system was leaking. The first sign was turnover. I saw it in LinkedIn updates. Former onboarding leads moving to competitors. Support reps open to work. Ops managers switching industries entirely. There was no scandal, no article, just a slow migration away from a company that had stopped holding people in place. Then the platform bugs started becoming public. Quantal Edge posted a customer service tweet. Does anyone know if NovaCrest is sunsetting their pipeline visualizer? Ours hasn't updated since the last release. There was no reply. Not from support. Not from Ethan. Not from anyone. A month later, Faro onboarded a client whose kickoff file was still labeled NovaCrest / implementation draft 2.xlsx. They hadn't even changed the file name. At first, I kept screenshots. Then I stopped. The data was enough. Client growth rose 47% in 2 quarters. We didn't market. We didn't cold call. We just answered questions with working links. Every time a new user signed up, I sent one internal message, no promises, just proof. That became our motto. Unpublished, unbranded. It didn't live on swag or splash screens. It lived in our deployment cycles, sub 10 days, no escalations. We were becoming the default, not because we were flashy, but because no one else knew how to stay quiet and fix things the first time. NovaCrest didn't formally collapse. Companies like that don't implode. They fade, gradually, bureaucratically, through reorgs and euphemisms. They stopped being mentioned on RFP shortlists. Then they were removed from market comparison matrices. Eventually, their service line was integrated into a larger cross-functional strategy initiative. I knew what that meant. They had lost. But I didn't win through noise. I didn't buy ads. I didn't gloat on Twitter. I built a better standard and let the silence do the marketing. One of our clients, an old contact from Veriton, called it Lena's Law. Whoever fixes the problem first gets to forget the pitch. I liked that, because Ethan never understood what I was really doing. He thought I wanted credit. I didn't. I wanted control, and now I had it. I never changed my bio. It still said, Operational Systems, Workflow Design, Scalable Implementation. No founder title, no CEO badge, just the work. Clients didn't care. They kept coming. The last one, a global fulfillment platform, came through an inbound form. In the notes, they wrote, "We heard you're the one who fixed Veriton's data sync. We're seeing similar failures. Can you help?" I didn't pitch. I didn't prep a deck. I just sent them a live demo link and said, "No onboarding fee if we miss the go-live by more than 48 hours. We didn't miss it. We haven't missed one since. Every now and then, someone sends me a screenshot. Ethan's latest job title on LinkedIn. He's consulting now. Scalable solutions for growth stage tech teams. No mention of Nova Crest. No mention of the system he once controlled. I don't respond. I just file it. Because memory is a system too. And I've learned how to run lean. Every now and then, someone sends me a screenshot. Ethan's latest job title on LinkedIn. He's consulting now. Scalable solutions for growth stage tech teams. No mention of Nova Crest. No mention of the system he once controlled. I don't respond. I just file it. Because memory is a system too. And I've learned how to run lean. Faro now operates across 4 countries. We've onboarded 67 clients in under a year, with a churn rate under 3%. We've automated the parts of the workflow Ethan used to hold hostage with jargon and status meetings. There are no thought leadership posts, just client dashboards that don't crash. People sometimes ask how it felt, being fired over a typo, and then overtaking the firm that erased me. I never give them what they're looking for, because the truth isn't cinematic, it's architectural. I don't feel triumphant, I feel aligned, like a system that finally flows the way it was designed. Clean, uncluttered, mine. Sometimes I go back to the folder, failures they called normal, just to remind myself how far the industry still has to go. The lies we normalize, the silence we expect from the people who do the real work. I keep one quote pinned to the wall of my workspace. It's handwritten, from an old notebook Ethan once mocked me for carrying. It says, "They punished the detail. So I made the detail the product." I don't talk about Nova Crest anymore. They don't come up in meetings. But every time a deployment goes live without errors, without delays, without a typo, they're still there, in the silence, where their name used to be.